Diamond Hill residents ready to stop the spread of Chikungunya virus. Court gives trio lengthy jail terms over bomb plots. Hello and welcome to TVB News. I'm Melissa Hekalea. In light of the city's first locally originated case of chikungunya fever, mosquito control works are underway, particularly in the vicinity of Feng Tak Estate in Diamond Hill, where the patient, an 82-year-old woman, resides. Samantha Lee tells us more.
Initial assessment suggested that the patient likely contracted the virus within the neighborhood, involving 8,000 households in 20 buildings. This indicates that at least 10,000 people face the risk of infection. Some senior residents visited a health station and filled out a questionnaire to evaluate their infection risk. This elderly woman said she was considering a blood test as she experienced bone pain throughout her body, which lasted for an entire week. This morning, the government sent personnel to remove silt from drains near Feng Tak Estate. Some residents reported an increase in mosquitoes in recent months. This man said an elevator shaft in his building was flooded and required cleaning. He suspected it might be a breeding ground for mosquitoes. Chikungunya is spread by mosquitoes. Certain brands of mosquito repellent were sold out in nearby shopping malls. Meanwhile, the kindergarten that the 82-year-old frequented with her grandchild stepped up anti-mosquito measures. This parent said she would make sure her child wears long-sleeved shirts and long pants when he heads to school. The principal of the kindergarten said that they reached out to a mosquito control company to carry out anti-mosquito work after school. Bug zappers were also put in classrooms and common areas. 3 other primary schools are located within a 200-meter radius of the patient's residence. One of them requires students to have their temperatures checked before turning up at school. Outdoor activities such as PE classes are suspended to minimize the risk of mosquito bites. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
A Hong Kong man was sentenced to 18 years in jail for masterminding 3 bomb plots in 2020. 2 other defendants also received sentences of 16 years and 8 months. This came after the trio were convicted of a count of conspiracy to cause an explosion likely to endanger life or cause serious injury to property in September. Mimo Singai reports.
The sentencing for the 3 defendants was announced at High Court on Monday. The first defendant, Ho Chet-wai, was sentenced to jail for 18 years. The 2 co-defendants, Li Ga-pan and Zhang Ga-zhen, were each sentenced to 16 years and 8 months. Delivering his sentencing, High Court Judge John Lee Chan said Ho was the mastermind of the conspiracy. He said Ho has a weak law-abiding concept and will likely be committing crimes again. Chan said Li and Zheng were also core members in the case. The court said Li did not show genuine remorse and denied the destructive effect of bombs. For Zheng, the court said he even denied his involvement in the conspiracy. The judge said the entire conspiracy act was to declare war on society. He said the trio's actions would have brought massive dangers to public safety. The court said that the sentencing must achieve a deterrent effect to demonstrate the court's attitude towards such crimes. The conspiracy dates back to January and February 2020, when a homemade bomb was placed in a man's toilet at the emergency ward at Caritas Medical Center in Changsha Wan, another bomb at Lohu MTR station. Another bomb plot was scheduled to take place in a Chengguano car park in March of the same year. Mimo Singai, TVB News.
China and the United States have reached a basic consensus for a trade deal that would address each country's concerns, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said. In an interview, Bessent said he and his Chinese counterpart, Li Chenggang, have prepared a framework for trade talks between President Xi Jinping and U.S. President Donald Trump in South Korea on Thursday. Nazvi Karim with more.
3-figure tariffs have been the focal point of U.S.-China trade tensions since President Trump took office. Despite the American threat of 100% tariffs still hanging over China, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent suggested in an interview that those days are over, as long as China plays ball. Bessent said Trump and President Xi Jinping will discuss the details of any potential deal when they meet in South Korea.
中美经贸关系
Li Chenggang, China's Vice Minister of Commerce, spoke with mainland media in Kuala Lumpur, acknowledging that China-US trade and economic relations have experienced twists and turns over the past months. He said the two sides discussed multiple issues, including export controls of rare earth, fentanyl-related tariffs, and cooperating on cracking down on fentanyl issues. He said the two sides have reached preliminary consensus on these issues. The Americans also want to persuade China to go back to buying soybeans from U.S. farmers. Benefiting for the time being are Brazilian farmers. Andre Rodriguez said he was not planning to bolster soybean production for next year's harvest until a couple of months ago, but now he's extra hopeful. China won't buy from the United States due to the price. Since it's more expensive there, this tariff barrier opens up an opportunity for us here, he said. Brazil's government said that between January and August, 77 million metric tons of soybeans were exported to China. During that period, China imported 17 million metric tons from the U.S. Nazri Karim, TVB News.
Chinese Premier Li Chang today emphasized to delegates at the ASEAN summit in Kuala Lumpur the need to uphold openness and cooperation to strengthen the regional economy. Li said complex changes such as high tariffs have disrupted the international economic and trade landscape. He said openness and cooperation are valuable shared experiences we've gained through practice and exploration. We should cherish them all the more, always uphold them, he said, and let openness and cooperation continue to be the defining advantage and winning formula of the East Asian economy. ASEAN is likely to sign an upgraded free trade pact with China and continue talks on a code of conduct for contested waterways claimed by various countries. China and Australia today sought to keep ties on an even keel despite tensions over military encounters in the South China Sea. On the sidelines of the ASEAN summit, Chinese Premier Li Chang told Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese that Beijing is ready to build a more stable and strategic partnership. Li said he hoped Australia will provide an open, transparent environment for Chinese enterprises to invest in the country. Albanese was also asked about last week's incident when a Chinese Su-35 jet twice released flares very close to an Australian aircraft over the South China Sea.
Dialogue is about advancing our interests, managing our differences, but also dealing with each other in a frank and clear way. China is our largest trading partner. 1 in 4 of Australian jobs depends upon trade, and China represents almost around about 30% of the destination of our exports. Well, we have disagreements, and friends are able to discuss issues frankly. I did that directly. That's what we're able to do. It's important that we engage, and that we engage diplomatically, that we make clear our position, which I did directly, which we did when the incident occurred.
Still ahead, Jamaica to be pummeled by massive and slow hurricane. Hong Kong all set for National Games torch relay on November 2nd. And Lunar New Year fair stalls go under the hammer. Welcome back. A fighter jet and a helicopter based off USS Nimitz both crashed into the South China Sea within 30 minutes of each other, according to the U.S. Navy's Pacific Fleet. The 3 crew members of the Seahawk helicopter were rescued, and the 2 aviators in the FA-18 Super Hornet fighter jet ejected and were recovered safely. All are in stable condition, and the causes of the crashes are under investigation. The USS Nimitz is returning to its home port in Washington state. The carrier is on its final deployment before decommissioning. This is the latest of a series of mishaps suffered by U.S. Navy planes in recent months. Jets from the USS Truman were involved in a number of accidents, but no sailors were killed in those mishaps. Hurricane Melissa roared towards Jamaica with destructive Category 4 winds today. It's expected to strengthen further before making landfall in the Caribbean nation with up to 76 centimeters of rain and a life-threatening storm surge. Daniel Rao reports.
Hurricane Melissa's center was forecast to move over Jamaica on Tuesday, across southeast Cuba on Tuesday night, and across the southeast Bahamas on Wednesday. The storm has killed at least 3 people in Haiti and a 4th person in the Dominican Republic, where another person remains missing. Melissa was centered about 205 kilometers south-southwest of Kingston, Jamaica, and about 495 kilometers south-southwest of Guantanamo, Cuba on Sunday night. It had maximum sustained winds of 241 kilometers per hour and was moving west at 7 kilometers per hour. It could reach Category 5 strength on Monday with winds greater than 250 kilometers per hour. According to the U.S. National Hurricane Center in Miami, some areas of eastern Jamaica could get 1 meter of rain. The center warned the slow speed at which the storm is advancing could prove problematic to residents of the country.
Generally just drifting slowly west over the next day before on Monday gradually turning north and then moving over Jamaica, where it now seems virtually certain that the core of a powerful hurricane is going to move over Jamaica on a Tuesday. And not only that, the slow motion is going to mean those hurricane conditions, potentially major hurricane conditions, are going to sit or occur over the island for in excess of 24 hours, and the tropical storm conditions could linger for 2 to 3 days. Now, why is this so important? That is a long duration event where you're going to have to be in a shelter in your home for up to 2 to 3 days, possibly longer for communities that could be cut off by the catastrophic flooding.
Melissa could be the strongest hurricane Jamaica has experienced in decades. Jamaican officials have warned cleanup and damage assessment would be severely delayed because of anticipated landslides, flooding and blocked roads. Daniel, TVB News.
Egypt is helping Hamas as it expands its search for dead hostages. More excavators and larger teams have been deployed, with Hamas under pressure to find and return the bodies of captives before the peace process can move forward. Extensive damage to Gaza is hampering efforts, as Israel says it needs a large say in the future of the Strip to maintain its own security. David Garrett reports.
Digging to locate makeshift graves, the rebuilding in Gaza will have to wait. The urgent search for at least 13 dead hostages demanded to be returned instantly by Israel. Hamas say locating the remains is difficult and time-consuming. Opponents say they are stalling. The destruction caused by the 2-year war between the militant group and Israel has wrecked the enclave. Unexploded bombs are another constraint on this painstaking process. Egypt has sent teams to help Hamas and the Red Cross. International assistance coming from beyond the Strip's borders as the King of Jordan questions which countries would want to be part of the stabilisation force set to be put in place under the US-backed peace plan. King Abdullah saying peacekeeping is one thing, but peace enforcing no one will want to touch. Abdullah quoted after Israel's deadly raid on central Gaza over the weekend. Benjamin Netanyahu says the strikes prevented attacks. The Prime Minister insisting Israel must have a say in which countries are in that stabilisation force, telling his cabinet Israel will control its destiny, which could mean by force. Elsewhere in Israel, joy and a personal victory. A living hostage comes home. The vehicle carrying survivor Eviatar David mobbed as he returns to Kfar Saba after more than 2 years away. This is great, the 24-year-old tells the microphones thrust in his face. Stay united, one country, you've always been with me. Families crowded the narrow streets to welcome David back. Cheers as he emerged draped in the Israeli flags, David blowing kisses to the crowd. They remember when Hamas released a video of him digging his own grave. He's one of 20 surviving hostages being treated for malnutrition, but with no serious physical problems. Mentally, he will be nurtured back to normal life slowly by experts. Overwhelmed by the noisy reception, the former hostage says, "Thank you and love. I have no more words," exclaims an exhausted Eviatar David. David Garrett, TVB News.
The body of the late Thai Queen Mother surrogate was transported in a procession to the Grand Palace to be laid to rest. A large convoy comprising dozens of vehicles left the hospital, which had seen crowds of mourners gathering since surrogate's death was announced last Friday. Mourners lined the roads during the procession, which made its way towards the Grand Palace. Surrogate's body was held in a silver van near the front of the procession. As the vehicle entered the palace, officials saluted and mourners wept. Funeral ceremonies will be held for 100 days at the Grand Palace, and a mourning period of 1 year will be held for members of the royal family, royal servants, and civil servants. The 15th National Games is set to kick off on November 9th. To usher in the Games, a torch relay will take place on November 2nd. Samantha Lee has more.
Co-hosted by Guangdong, Macau and Hong Kong, the 15th National Games will run from November 9th to 21st. Hong Kong will field its largest team ever, a total of 602 athletes to compete in 28 events. The torch relay will begin simultaneously in Hong Kong, Macau, Guangzhou and Shenzhen. 50 torch bearers from each city will run from 9:30 a.m. Stretching 10 kilometers, torch bearers in Hong Kong will start at the central government offices. They will run past the Golden Bauhinia Square, then board a ferry at Wan Chai Pier. Crossing Victoria Harbour, they will disembark at Tsim Sha Tsui Pier and run to Tsim Sha Tsui East, where they will hop on an open-top bus. The journey will conclude at Kai Tak Sports Park and is expected to last around 2 hours. Road closures and diversions will be arranged on that day.
We hoped can arouse the public's interest in the national games and also show the best side of Hong Kong to our mainland and overseas friends and audience.
To facilitate the national games, 16 e-channels for accredited personnel will be set up at the airport, Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge, West Kowloon Station and Shenzhen Bay Port. Some 5,000 eligible guests, officials and athletes will be able to pass through simply by showing their faces instead of needing to present their ID documents. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
The auction for Lunar New Year fair stalls started today. The highest transaction price for a fast food stall came to $230,000. Mimo Singai reports.
23萬第二次，23萬第三次成交。
It was competitive on the first day of the fair auction. After 18 rounds of bidding, a Victoria Park fast food store near the Causeway Bay MTR station was transacted at a price of $230,000, costing 26% more than the previous year. Another fast food store, which is smaller in size and located near Tin Hau, went for $140,000. The man said the store was once sold at $500,000. He called himself lucky this time. A total of 915 wet goods stores, 647 dry goods stores, and 26 fast food stores are open for bidding across the different auction sessions. A Food and Environmental Hygiene Department spokesperson said it will require store owners to install reinforcement tools such as sandbags at their spots. This came after some stores were destroyed by strong winds last year. The Lunar New Year fairs will be held at 14 locations and will welcome visitors for 7 days, from February 11th to 17th. Memos 9, TVB News.
That's the news. Thanks for watching. Pearl Magazine is up shortly. See you then.